Yes, hello, my name's Jeff Clark. I'm a regional director at AECOM, based in the north of England. And my role within ITS is I'm the organizer of a lot of the events for the Freight Forum. And I've been involved with that since 2006, and we got through a number of events with that. Okay, the Freight Forum was one of the first forums organised at the start of ITS UK. And the idea of that is actually to promote and develop existing and new ITS technologies and services for the freight industry. And by doing that, we're identifying current problems in the freight sector, and we're looking to find ITS solutions to try and help that. And as well as sort of looking at the problems, then when we've come up with possible solutions, we bring people together to have a discussion about what might work. And then part of the role is to disseminate these ideas. And actually by doing so, we bring both suppliers of the ITS technology together with potential users and also people from local authorities and government to discuss how in practice they might work. Okay, so to give you some ideas, we've actually looked at a whole range of different problems in the past few years, and in the time that I've been honorary secretary, we've been looking at things like home deliveries and how the internet might change things. And intriguingly, this year, with the effects of COVID and a lot more people ordering from home, it's become even more of a step change in how that's happening. But actually, as our Freight Forum, we discussed that actually 8 years ago and how that was starting to have an effect then, and predicting how the growth of vans and also people ordering in a different way was likely to happen. So again, we were sort of ahead of the game in looking at that. Another example of that was on lorry platooning. And we actually held a meeting about 5 years ago looking at how autonomous vehicles are likely to change the way transport managers work. And actually we brought people together in our London office to talk about lorry platooning. Interestingly, just over a year later, then DFT looked at setting up a piece of work which is under trial at the moment. So part of the thing is actually looking ahead to see what are the future problems that we might face and try and get people around the table to talk in a non-threatening way about what does this mean to the industry. Yes, so the haulage industry works on very tight margins, and typically we're looking at 1 to 5% margins on business, and the hauliers rely on a lot of regular business and large volumes to try and make money from that. But of course, it means investing in ITS or anything new has to really justify to the managers and directors of the transport company what are the savings to the business. Now, clearly, in many cases, you've got a range of different ITS solutions. Some of them are actually built into the new trucks that you're able to buy. And in many senses, then, if they're things like inbuilt telematics or something like that, if they're in the price of the truck, then you can actually set aside that against regular income. But some of the extra devices that people have decided to invest in have required additional payments of systems that can be then retrofitted either into the vehicles or indeed brought into the office. Now, in many cases, the return on investment for some of these ITS solutions can be within a year, in fact, in terms of the savings that can be made. And it just requires the convincing of the transport manager that it's worth investing. I mean, things like the use of computer vehicle routing and scheduling systems that we looked at in our Freight Forum about 4 years ago. That's a typical example where actually investing in a system can actually bring typically 10 to 12% savings. And overall, the fleet size can be reduced a bit, and you actually reduce the number of miles overall to deliver the same amount of goods. Similarly, some smaller schemes, again, that actually help the lorry driver be more efficient again, back in 2008, we looked at the use of sat navs and how wayfinding was going to change. And actually, of course, it's mainstream now about how people use systems to be able to find their way around. And that's particularly useful for van and multi-drop drivers that might be doing 60 drops in a day. And without these sort of systems, they'd be a lot less efficient. Yes, so some of the things that are likely are changes in both the way we move loads, the way we organize things, and actually things like bringing fulfillment centers to the outskirts of city centers and then using electric vehicles to the so-called last mile. That's changing the way we move goods. Similarly, not only in the land transport side, there's lots of changes going on in shipping and aviation. Let's give you an example from the shipping industry. Within the next year, there's going to be a semi-autonomous ship introduced in Norway that'll be able to go around the coasts of Norway, delivering different chemical products. And actually, that vessel will be capable of moving without the need for a bridge master actually involved. And actually the way different semi-autonomous and autonomous vehicles are actually being trialed at the moment, and some of them will become mainstream, I think, in the next 5 to 10 years. But also the way we do things, even small parcels. People at the moment are doing trials in various countries about the use of drones, particularly useful for urgent pharmaceutical goods, and where you've got islands. So DfT is trialling some with the Isle of Wight, and Transport Scotland is trialling some for some of the islands of Scotland. And further afield, even some African third world countries are using drones for movements of pharmaceuticals and blood products and things where the road infrastructure might be almost non-existent. So there's those sorts of technology. Clearly moving forward, there's various talk about things like Hyperloop and the use of maglevs and things like that. And there's a number of things that it's a little bit uncertain how some of those technologies are going to affect things. But nevertheless, the appeal of energy efficient and smooth autonomous systems is likely to change the way we do things. And I guess one of the best examples is who thought 20 years ago that in 2020, almost everyone would have a personal computer with them, obviously in the form of a smartphone, that actually so much would be done with that. And it's become almost an addiction now for many people looking at their computer in their hand on a regular basis. Certainly from my point of view, it's been a pleasure sort of working with ITS and helping on the Freight Forum side of things. And we'd like to extend the membership of the Freight Forum to more operators, I think in particular. At the moment, we've got a good membership of suppliers, and lots of local authorities and Highways England and the DfT come along to the meetings. But I think we would like to engage further with the freight industry and help disseminate some of the messages. And again, we will strive to look for the problems of tomorrow and actually come up with solutions almost ahead of when they actually need them. So look forward to the next decade and all sorts of changes that are likely to affect the freight industry.